return. Fouad Said is our in-house analyst. He's the one who would be in charge of providing analysis to the reports that we start to look at on the front covers of our pages. He tells us, well, what is hidden in between the line, or maybe even refers us to certain events that in one way or the other informs into his analysis. You can then tell us if you agree, if you disagree, or you have additions that you would like to provide this morning. My name is Sage Babalola. Please, we ask that you follow us across our social media platforms. They double as our streaming platform, especially Facebook and YouTube. So at the moment, as we are proceeding into the discourse and looking through our papers, we are streaming the program on Facebook. I would like to reiterate once again why joining the social media platform helps you. You're able to interact with each story in real time. As we go from page to page, you're able to comment using the live chat option provided on our streaming platform, and also provides you an avenue to interact with other people who are listening. Good morning, Fouad. Happy new day. How are you today?
Good morning, Faith. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, well, let's get into the discourse. We're starting with the Punch newspaper. The fourth story here that we would be reviewing: a tax law, 5 trillion naira VAT windfall for state as new formula begins. The 36th state of the Federation is set to receive an estimated 5.07 trillion as their share of value-added tax in 2026, following the commencement of the new VAT sharing formula introduced under National Tax Act. Findings by the Punch have shown the development is contained in the 2026-2028 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy paper approved by the Federal Executive Council. Well, according to projections, the federal government VAT allocation is expected to drop by 922.53 billion naira in 2026 from 1.04 trillion in 2025, even as the VAT pool itself grows significantly year on year. Well, for one side, the Punch report is telling us once again that the states and local government are the ones who will be benefiting the most from the new value-added tax sharing formula, as we see in the new tax laws. The federal government share would go down from 15% to 10%, while the state share would rise from 50% to 55%, and the local government will continue to receive 35%. Again, the projection is states and local government will be entitled to more from the value-added tax collected, while the executive, which is the center, will be entitled to less.
What in this ordinarily should come as good news, right?
Yeah.
Especially to the people, because again, what it needs is that the government and its closer and closer to them will be getting more from. There's been a lot of back and forth and arguments, disagreements about the value-added tax figures. So about 5 trillion, more than 5 trillion will be going to them. And you know why already, Sage. Because again, there has not been better living for the people. The state governments, what they are doing with the money, things have not significantly changed for the people. We are still at a stage where we are still arguing. Sage, this time and age, we are still at a point where we are arguing. Sage. So I think this is just for our information. That look, with the new tax arrangement, VAT, that this is what is going to happen in terms of revenue share. Nigerians will be with revenue to the subnational level.
Well, let's move on further to other stories here. As you've mentioned, I think most importantly in the luxury that will be afforded to the Nigerian people at the state and at the subnational. But if you could adjust the city, this is according to NERC. Total rate for electricity supplied under bilateral arrangement, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has said in its third quarter 2025 report. NERC data for electricity supplied during the period, but they remitted only 7.125 million, leaving an outstanding balance of 11 million, out of which they paid 7.84 million, leaving a balance of $6.8 million. That is 25.36 billion naira at the exchange rate of 1,425 to a dollar. Again, there's really no need for us to start to read any further from the report. I think all Nigeria $17.8 million, an equivalent of 20 that was supplied. Million naira. That's how much money that we're coming on. It's within trading partners. There are debts, but then with that, services are paid for maybe even before they are rendered.
Well, the thing that comes to mind, the situation in Nigeria now is that once you get a bill as a postpaid customer, you must pay a fee that you are supposed to pay. Now we don't know the agreement we have with these international buyers, electricity buyers. Whether the idea is that
apologies for that disruption. I'd actually noticed earlier, expected that to happen, but precisely at the Punch newspaper, and we're currently talking about the amount of money that is owed to Nigeria by our international. This is according to the Regulatory Corporation for Electricity. Hello, Fuad.
Yes, are you with me now?
Yes.
So what I'm saying, no matter how much you owe, you cannot disconnect supply from them. You understand what I'm saying? What you call a legacy debt. Even in this government, I know that there's something called legacy debt. That debt gets to a point becomes a legacy debt. These international buyers to owe this amount of money when ordinary Nigerians cannot owe a couple. Like I just told you, the law now or the rule of engagement now, if you pay part of it, they'll still come and disconnect your supply. I think they also have other sources of getting electricity. There is the solar part of it, there is the hydro. They are not only buying from Nigeria. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So it is they buy from Gencos who are connected to the grid. Yes. Key supplies to most of these countries are also stable. They also have these disruptions, blackouts, and what have you. So, but again, the question is, if Nigerians cannot owe, why are international buyers owing?
Our domestic customers.
Who pays better?
Our domestic customers.
And they cannot owe.
They're saying that they pay better. Their payment structure is way better. But
but with this money, it means that they can owe.
Well, yeah.
Or there is something beyond. When you have a bilateral agreement of this nature, security arrangements, trade arrangements that are also tied to these things. That's how it will be nice until we have a complete,
Well, that is the situation. I don't think the report also doesn't indicate there's a recovery plan for the monies that are being owed, so there's no need for to preempt. The arrangement is, we don't know if there's a clause that allows for the disconnection or we're getting something else from Nila 98.3 FM. Thank you to everyone on the live stream. We appreciate you. Please do well to comment in real time as we go through Venezuela's situation. Thankfully, that was the conversation I had on Situation G, and we spoke very briefly about the Venezuela situation and how in some way or the other it would most likely affect us. And just like that, the Punch is already drawing our attention to it. Oil price after United States President Donald Trump said Venezuela would hand over up to 50 million barrels of crude to the to export the oil valued at $2 billion to the United States. And of course, Brent crude dropped billion barrels of high quality oil to the U.S. market at market price, though to be worth close to $2 billion. So the part that really concerns us, Fuad, is once again $45 to $50 per barrel. And mind you, Nigeria had projected, or the parameters was, we pegged it at $64 per barrel.
$64.
Right now it's $60 per barrel because oil exploration and increase in supply, and they're already telling us to be mindful.
An isolated economy in the southern hemisphere, but nobody, Venezuela, enforce a regime. It's a very like just go there to steal their oil, basically. So now, but the effect is that look globally, it means that there's going to be more supply of oil in the international market, basic economics. So that's already happening. Brent crude, I think, has dropped below market. Prices could go further down. Because again, Venezuela is the country with world crude oil reserves. Deposit, sorry. But sometimes some of these things are not verifiable. But for Venezuela, it is known. The only problem is that, look, For years, because of corruption, international sanctions, and what have you, people is now saying that, you know what, American companies are going to go into the country, will invest our money. And so the sad part of the whole thing is that we also need to buy products from America. Okay. but we have to bridge the gap of the revenue shortfall that will eventually come. If, for example, below $50. So, unfortunately, we are not even sure of how well the Minister of Finance balance of about 30 trillion was not realized. So, this is going to be so just imagine we begin to see crude oil sell at maybe $40, $35.
Well, that is the situation, which would obviously mean more borrowing to do that. So I'm really glad that you opened the conversation with there's no economy that exists in isolation, because a lot of people say, what's our business with what's going on in Venezuela? It's rather cumbersome, but we will find a way to institution, resist local government areas. Compliance by state government remains uneven, exposing deep constitutional ambiguities that continue to empower governors on account must be paid directly to local government for grassroots governance. However, after the judgment, more than 30 states of the 36 states they conducted made so that court order can be implemented, we still have governors exploring gray areas government, as we see with this Supreme Court judgment. For our side, we do have some local best way possible, for the overall development of the state, so that the local government must open. But then there's a verification because the CBN claims that they've not fulfilled that part of their obligation, the money to the local government. So for our side, there's the conversation stringent, and also why is it we prefer to stay tied to the apron string of the government? Yes, we still want the governor to be the one to give us money. Do you want to rescue somebody who seems to be enjoying the cage?
Because the story basically tells us that 19 months down the line, right, after the Supreme Court judgment, it's a very simple judgment. See, nothing cumbersome about the judgment. Number one, no multi-article PD. All of them ran into the local government chairman at 11. But yet they still want to be the ones to collect the money on behalf of the local government. They still want to run the joint accounts, that there is this procedure with the CBN to open accounts. The Guardian report is telling us that there are no known evidence, because even if the president himself, while addressing the APC governors, I told them that, you know what, I now have the knife and yam. If you guys don't desist, what to do with an executive order, even though, if you are listening to my Supreme Court judgment. So there was no need for the president to be almost begging the governors. All he needed to do is to ensure that the right things are done with money on our behalf.
Actually talk about the constitutional provision here. We know that the Constitution still provides for the joint account, right? So that the state should obey this court order. Why not court order? And so obeying a Supreme Court order without adjusting the Constitution,
of the law, and whatever comes out of judgment becomes law automatically. Yes, I understand that. Look, and if you look at the Guardian report, it's also talking about what is the ending of the joint account, rather than trying to go through the section of the Constitution. I think they should be able to do it.
Yeah.
Now they have about 28 governors. In fact, he has to assembly to agree to the amendment of the Constitution. 24 is what is needed to free the local government from the governors. In fact, this is the first time, if it is under this president that we are seeing the Supreme Court ruling against the interest of the governors on this matter. But all in all, governors quickly conducted local government elections, because that was part of the ruling.
Yes.
To conduct these elections. So what we are saying is that, look, we've put the cart before the horse, to the local government.
Yeah.
And I remember Senator Jᴏɪᴜ S쏘ʲᴜ, the deputy secretary, when he said that, look, the first thing to do really to free the local government from the apron chairman becomes more transparent and efficient. That is why you have local government chairmen now who are saying, oh, we prefer that our governors collect the money. So we basically put the cart before the horse. Local government happens. And even if financial autonomy happens at the local government level, what character of people do we have? even at the local, available for stealing at the local government level by opening account. Nobody's talking about opening accounts again now. The reality is that the governors will not let go. And unfortunately, we have tribal will develop. So it's not surprising semblance of functionality at the local government level in Lagos. And it's not as if it's all is well too. That SUV for local government chairman. Where did the money come from? Governor. So
money and let them do what they're supposed to do with it.
Where did the money?
Like favor. It looks like a favor, but then is this a personal purchase? Did he take money from?
Because their money is received. They know. You remember their friend Wale Adedayo who raised the alarm, and the others went there begging, frustrating and begging the governor. See, and that is the state that we are still arguing whether they have ambulance or not.
That particular issue. How are we going to do that?
That's also a problem because as it stands, it's only 20 local governments in Lagos. It's also against the law. It's illegal because the law does not know them, does not recognize them.
Yeah.
Because what we're probably having in Lagos is that once the parents, and the only reason why this is possible is because it is the ruling party that takes everything. I've said it before to one of the APC members who is my friend. Do you know that if an opposition local government money, and it is going to become and that is why you see that the governors ensure that they put it is the party of the governor that wins everything. And I win. I might argue that look, there's nothing. So you can see why they manipulate the entire process. Because as it stands today, the law does not recognize anything called LCDA. When it comes to another state where that exists.
So would you think that the best step would be into the mother local government? I don't think that's possible anymore. They exist, albeit sharing work.
It will be difficult. Because
I know. Talking about it now, I recognize in my head that it will be a very, very hectic procedure.
Because the thing is that the way we create local government, you get. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of imbalance. For example, why with Kano, for example, have 44 local government. Lagos is just dealing with. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So the imbalance is obvious. But constitutionally creating recognizable local government will go through the same process. Other states will say they want to create their own local government. That becomes the problem.
A KGB influence in Nigeria, says former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has said that reforms introduced during the 85th birthday celebration and book launch of former Nigeria Labour Congress President Hassan Sumonu in Abuja, Obasanjo expression, he said, undermine Nigeria's sovereignty. It says, and I quote, one labor faction was being financed by the KGB, controlled by Nigeria, financed by Nigeria. So I decided there was going to be a labor that I'm asking for reform. What is my business? He added that the reforms led by just labor leaders to publicly criticize him so that he can hold him to account in public. And basically, we have Joe Ajero, who was also speaking, who took advantage of this birthday committee on tax, that the best thing to do is actually to communicate directly to the workers whose wages you would sort of appearances are, but you've exempted them. And then Joe Ajero, of course, have made his position very known regarding the tax laws. He's 100% against the tax arrangements or how the new tax laws are being administered, and he took advantage of this event to air his grievances. So for that side, if you would like to take these two, let's talk about the former president and his conversation about liberating the labor unions from foreign influences, and then we will talk about the position of Joe Ajero as the NLC president. He says the government's insistence on pushing ahead with the law was akin to muddling along in confusion and darkness workers and the masses, whom he described as the country's major taxpayers, recalling that to be on the menu. He alleged that the proposed laws were packed with serious alterations aimed at making workers and the poor to be national minimum wage is not fair, a tax that taxes unheeded. We do not see anything wrong in pausing along this negative path, rethinking and redirect of tax. He just says that it's quite disappointing that the NLC, or at least workers, no need for the continued implementation with the controversy that have bedeviled the implementation. Pause for a bit. Let's rethink. Let's meet.
Okay, yeah, two issues here. The first one is former President Bush. International politics was during the Cold War and the CIA doing the same thing. So just history for me was basically competition amongst the two most powerful nations of the world at that time, at the Cold War era of dominance between the left and then capitalism on the other side. So just to understand, when Mikhail Gorbachev came up with glasnost and perestroika, and then you saw the balkanization of the whole Soviet Union, just one dominant world power. They do anything they like, nobody's able to correct them. No issue the statement. But can they stop America from doing it? Television stations sponsoring politicians, because it was a race to ensure that one of the countries of dominance. So I think Olusegun just wanted to bring that to our mind, that look, they even did the case would be that look, just like Senator Adams Oshiomhole have told him, if you read some of the reports, that look, you are always issuing statements condemning actions of government. On the labor union leader, organize your people to fight for the interest of your people. It's not enough for you to just open. Do you know that they do the protest and you ask yourself, what does this amount to? What does this achieve really for the interest of your members? I think the labor workers, if they've seen anything defective in this new law, why wait all through the whole thing? The thing has been passed into law. At the point of implementation, you are now saying that, they do all these things. So I don't know. This is, for me, it's just for the rights and the interest of the workers. In reality.
Well, that is the situation because of the party who defected to other political platforms as political travelers, right? He's throwing jabs at LP defectors, especially since Peter Obi has decided to join the A. That he might be eyeing the presidential ticket of the Labour Party.
Yeah, he
did. I could not exactly remember. Has defected from the Labour Party to the ADC, and I don't really think that there's any politically viable individual in the Labour Party right now, besides Dati Ahmed, honestly.
Because in terms of political value, he's a nobody. I'm telling you, he's zero. In reality, he's the way now.
Is that what you want to do? It's
like always, also, running mate to Peter B. What did he do? What did he deliver for Peter B? What was his value?
But this is not
what. Now he's telling people who have gone to the ATC and say, "What?
They're traveling.
Good luck to him."
Every politician is a traveler.
If I have to put a list up of potential, if we try to draw up a list of, possible persons who could emerge.
Now, you have no confidence whatsoever in him as a politician.
I'll be delusional to have confidence that about men now.
What's the metaphor now? Just joining the fight, basically.
Which fight now? Okay, for the sake of joining, so that he also become, if for anyone to become president who is not on the list, he will never make my list. Even if I do a list of 1 million Nigerians, he will still not make the list. I'm sorry. With all due respect to it, I just think the guy is passing around.
With all due respect, this your respect is not due at all.